Nellie, welcome to the KaiZen podcast. Welcome to, maybe the word is new to you or not. I don't know. Have you come across the Japanese word before? You know it before. So I've chosen this word because I believe in improvement, and I believe in everything which is positive to any community. And I've noticed that you are such a generous professional, someone who guides everyone, especially through LinkedIn. I've noticed you before on Facebook with the Tesol. I guess you were posting some events a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yes. Can you remember where exactly? It was like 10 years ago?
It was TEFL Young Learners probably, and I think that had to be around up to 2016. So that's quite a while.
Exactly. And I was just wondering, first, that was the starting point of my CPG in 2014, 2015, 16. So I noticed that there were a lot of groups. First, I noticed that on Facebook. And then, because that was not really common in here in Tunisia, all teacher associations, they do hold conferences, and that's the only, apart from the teacher training, we can have at our institution, if you're an English teacher. So those communities of practice were a little bit rare. So you were noticeable at that time, Dr. Nellie, and thanks for being active. And today we're going to talk a lot about your career path, let's say, and your vision to how you see mindful learning in the digital world. So welcome, Dr. Nellie.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Really gives me a pleasure to be here, and anyone who's watching this, welcome. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned Facebook, Yousra, because I think that's where I got my students involved in something really exciting. Before, Facebook started in 2005, 2004, around that time. And I think I started in 2006, if I'm not mistaken. And I was teaching at high school. What I did was I created a group. In those days, pages weren't available yet, I don't think. And they came a bit later, but groups. So I created a group for each of my classes. From grade 10, there were 16, 15-year-olds, to grade 12, 18-year-olds. And to this day, they're married already, they have children. Sometimes I get a pop-up of their life because we became friends, of course. And that's when I realized that, teaching is not just standing in front of the class. This was a face-to-face class, of course. It's not just standing in front of the class, but teaching is more about connecting and improving your life. And they did improve their life. Just the fact that they could collaborate with each other, get a Facebook account, and then invite their friends, and then continue with this, and they've been continuing they stayed friends. This particular class that I'm thinking of stayed friends, and it's not just this class, it's the whole school, actually. All my students had Facebook accounts, and that's how we connected on Facebook. It was a class called, I don't remember, each class had its name, grade 12, A, B, C, and so on. And it was really exciting. And that's when I actually met Dr. Doris Malero. And we became colleagues and friends, and our students got together, and they also learned together. So networking made them feel happy. They were inspired. They were learning English, of course, because they were communicating with others and with each other. It was all in English. So they couldn't use any other language in those days. I don't even know if Facebook had translations. I think it may not have. I think it was all English. So whoever was there had to do it all in English. So they were, because their backgrounds were diverse from different countries. So English was the only language they could use. And my idea that to improve learning, you really need to use digital tools. And Facebook came later. I started with technology in 1993 with projects from around the world where students, high school students, were able to study together. In those days, I used Moodle. It was in 2003, 2004, so they can communicate with the world. But I didn't realize how strong it was until we left the LMS and we connected openly on Facebook. And of course, we used other platforms. There was a platform called Ning. I don't know if you heard of Ning, N-I-N-G. Right now, it's not free and it changed hands. The owners changed. But in those days, it was free. So it was also a platform that you can learn on, connect with others, not like Facebook, but it was pretty open as well. And I think that was my outlook from the beginning, how to improve myself as a teacher, first of all, myself as a person, as a as a wife, a mother to my children, and of course, a teacher. So I think improving, and that's why KaiZen, I think, is really appropriate, because, I mean, what is life without improvement? I mean, who wants, I mean, I don't know, maybe there are people who are not focused on this, but it seems to me that all the people that I know are focused on improvement, you know, whether it's to improve the quality of your life, to improve your relationships, to improve with your spouses, with your family, immediate family, siblings, you know, people you work, anyone, you know, is about improvement. The question is, you know, where does it lead you? This need to improve your life, whether it's physical, of course, or mental. You know, people may want to improve the way they look physically. Maybe they focus on that. I know I did when I was much younger. You know, that was my focus. You know, kind of lipstick you wear, the kind of makeup you put on, your jewelry, clothing, and so on. But I also had sports, which I really liked. And I didn't do sports because I thought it was healthy, of course, because I was too young. But I did it because it felt good. And I think that with KaiZen, it's not just improvement, but it's the fact that it feels good. You know, it feels good to focus on it.
Yes, exactly. I absolutely agree with you. And you mentioned something important about people who see improvement as something innate, something normal, and others who maybe see this as a challenge. Because I believe that there are those who are really so comfortable sitting and staying in their comfort zone. There are people sometimes who are afraid of change. Like I can talk about this generally speaking, there are those who work hard so that to achieve that kind of stability, and they consider that the comfort zone, and they just stay there, be it professionally speaking, be it at a personal level. But there are also those like yourself, and like I see change like something normal, because first I get bored doing the same thing. Honestly, I just can't stand doing the same thing like over and over again. So I do sometimes even a lesson, I teach the same components, but in a different way. Because I believe in being a, you know, there's a proverb which says you can never swim twice in the same river the same way. It's like, this is not the exact text, but the meaning says in a way, you can never swim twice in the same river the same way. It's like other waters aren't coming up to you. So it's the same. I see it in professional life, other challenges, like, for example, the COVID, we faced something out of nowhere. We had to switch teaching online. Some of us were not even trained to do the online teaching. Not all of us, but some of us, the majority, let's say. And we had to cope with that situation. Lucky you, you went through the online teaching, online career. a long time ago. But in our case, for me, it's like I started teaching in 2009, and it was basically, the majority of it was face-to-face, in-person teaching. And in 2019, I guess in 2020, so we had to switch to online teaching. And we did this in 1 week. So we were trained quickly. Materials were sent to us. We found the support and everything. Even I was teaching at a Cambridge school at that time. And so we found all the resources available for us. Just be comfortable teaching and be comfortable being well at ease with your students. That was the feeling that I had at that moment. And I enjoyed that teaching experience so much. And my students, they became like even closer to each other. It's like the fact that they found themselves away and facing something that really, really very new to them. And they were middle schoolers, you know, they missed class. So I had in a session, a student telling me, Miss, I really miss being in class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was an enjoyable experience. And, you know, once we were just dropped onto the water, I learned how to swim at that time. So ever since, like, I started the online teaching experience, I loved it. And I evolved through time, and I'm still learning. And most of my learning is thanks to you and whatever you share.
Thank you. I'm sure it's you. Can't be somebody else. It's you're right, but you're right about the swimming. You're right about the river and the swimming. That's what we practice when we practice mindfulness, is that every practice, every time you sit, and I usually sit about an hour, 30 minutes to an hour every morning, is always different. And you need to remind yourself, this is the moment, and it's different from any other moment. So it's the same idea. Every moment is not the same as any other, unless, as you said, and it's hard for me to really see that, you know, I don't even believe it. I don't believe anybody could do, if they pay attention to what they're doing, the exact same thing, with the same feelings, the same sense, the same more than once. No moment, in my opinion, can be repeated in the same way. I don't think that's possible. Even if you do the same thing, like you said, you teach the same subject, but you'll vary it. And you're not the only one. I think everybody varies. Nobody can be that robotic. You know, I think even AIs don't have the same answer twice. You know, they vary it. I don't think it's possible.
Yes. But to a certain extent,
it may seem possible to you. You may think, well, she's doing the exact same thing.
No,
but they're not. They're not.
Know, exactly. Yeah. But sometimes it's like, even though we want to make things, for example, it's like we kind of harmonize, let's say, if it's, for example, if we're talking about a teaching experience, so we can improvise, but to a certain extent, we have to go back to, for example, the learning outcomes, the learning objectives. So in that particular sense. But if we're talking about this, generally speaking, as you said, I absolutely agree with you. We can never do the same thing twice. Like even twins, those identical entities, they're not the same. So
no,
yes.
Because you know, if you think about it, if you really observe what you're doing, and I think that's the case for improvement, if you really pay attention to every single second of what, or, you know, millisecond of what you're doing, you'll notice that, wait a minute, I had different thoughts now. I didn't have these thoughts. I mean, if you really pay attention, you'll notice that your thoughts are different, your moods, your mood's different, your everything's different, even though, you know, on the outside, to somebody looking at you will say, oh, you're still doing the same thing. You're not.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Nellie. And if you allow me to elaborate on what you said, when it comes to podcasting, for example, the topic is the same. My guests, they vary, but they're all of them, the majority of them, they're English language professionals. But every episode is unique from the previous one. It's like I learn something new from every guest that I interact with. And the exchange is like really different. For example, I started, the first episode was with Miss Grazia, and I really thank her so much for kicking off the KaiZen podcast. So the first Ikigai was from Tunisia. It was a colleague, a Tunisian colleague who volunteered to be my first guest. But for this podcast, like this series of talk show, the episode of Grazia is different from the next one, from Jose, different from Safwan, is different from Anastasia. And even Jose, you know, I had Jose for the two podcasts, Jose Domingo Cruz. He's a Canadian living in Japan. And even with the same person, you know, I had a different interaction. So that is really human, I guess. It's very human, as you said.
It's what's wonderful, you know, about life, that, you know, people who say they're bored, all they have to do is just pay attention to what you're doing. And you'll see that, you know, even things that seem mundane, and they're not really boring if you just pay attention to them. So I think that's what KaiZen really brings up, this idea of paying attention, and then you don't have to think of change, because things are changing anyways, whether you like it or not.
Of course.
You're not the same person. You're not I mean, like, you're not. So isn't that wonderful about life, that we don't have to be bored. We don't have to, because there's so much there. With every single person. And that's why when people ask me, you know, how would you describe yourself? I describe myself as a relationship-based mentor, teacher, whatever you want to call it. And they say, what do you mean by relationship-based? Because it's obvious, but nobody thinks of it that way. They think of themselves, well, I'm a teacher. Well, what is a teacher? You know, it's a title. What is it? What do you do? Do you lecture? Then you're a lecturer. Do you instruct? Then you give instructions. I mean, what exactly do you do? I mean, because if you think about learning, we don't need a teacher to learn. You know, you can learn from anything. You know, I was once at a lecture. It was a talk by someone, keynote speaker, Canadian, originally from the UK, but he said everything is a teacher.
Yes.
You know, it's the walls are teachers. If you're looking at a wall, you'll see all kinds of things, and you'll think about things, and you'll get ideas. Or if you look at a painting, I mean, everything in your life is a teacher. So to learn, you don't need anyone. You do need people, because that helps you learn about yourself through your relationship with people. But it is about you know, being with people. That's what it's about. It's about seeing them as humans, and not as objects in your classroom that you're talking at, you know. And a lot of teachers think they do that. They don't really, you know, because they do build some kind of a relationship, whether it's a hate-love relationship with their students. Their students might hate them. They might feel disgusted with the fact that they're just talking away. They might feel tired. They might feel bored. They might feel all kinds of negative thoughts, or they might feel, you know, wonderful because they get a chance to dream away while they talk, you know. But it's not true, because even those teachers are actually building some kind of relationship with the people. You can't not build a relationship. But we don't think of it like that. You know, we don't think of our students as being part of a human connection, you know, a human, if you want to call it, improvement circle. Of course. Because they are part of our improvements. Everybody is. You're part of my improvement right now.
Yeah, of course. So I will add something to what you said, Dr. Nellie. It's related to social relationships, academic relationships, or human relationships, generally speaking. And I'm going to refer back to Ibn Khaldun, who is a famous Tunisian sociologist and famous around the world. And he talked about human beings being social beings by nature. So it's like no one can live in isolation. No one can really just be very individualistic. And, you know, this is the tendency nowadays. It's just like everybody, they just behave as if me, myself, and I, my mobile phone, my computer, my wallet, and that's it. So most of the people, the majority, not all of them, they're just dealing with this individualistic vision, and it has really been reinforced with the pandemic. It's like fear from the other, fear from interaction, whereas no, I see that we really evolve, we really learn only when we interact with others. We learn, we can learn from ourselves. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the here and now and mindfulness and yoga, because I learned that particular, difficult meditation once, because it's very difficult. I'm going to talk a little bit about this afterwards. It's not easy as it seems. So, but going back to talk about the students, as you said, teacher, instructor, facilitator, whoever, like any teacher sees himself as being a facilitator for knowledge, because as you said, everything now is available online. Everyone can have AI as a teacher, but where is the human aspect in all this? So the second point is related. So you can elaborate on this after this, Dr. Nellie. Feel free to tell me what you think about this afterwards. I can remember still my first yoga session, and it was right after I came from Thailand, and I was impressed by the energy, the Zen energy in that country. It's like everybody is Zen. It's like even the animals, the cats and dogs, you can never hear a dog barking in a way like very nervous, or hear it like a cat. It's like very peaceful, very pacific. And I wanted to learn why those monks can spend hours meditating without talking. And once I tried it here in Tunis, it was difficult for me to concentrate on a meditation task. Just emptying your mind from every thought and being in the here now.
So the idea is to pay attention to those thoughts as they come, and to continue breathing, come back to the here and now, and not forcefully, not by force, but to do it gently, with understanding about the fact that it's generated. So you come back to your body, which is reality. Come back to your body, and you come back to your breathing. And then eventually, not all the time, it depends on so many things. It depends on life. So sometimes you'll have moments when you are breathing and you're quiet. You really are, you can't force it. It happens when it happens. And then time just passes by, and it's 60 minutes. And you say, what, 60 minutes so quickly? Because I usually put a bell, a bell, so that
reminder.
There's some control. Some time element to it, and that's how it happens. So you do it gently, you do it slowly, one little bit, but you have to develop and that's what they have. They have discipline. And I think that's the hardest thing, to develop discipline. And I think that's where improvement comes into, if you decide, and it's not, I don't think of it as change, because change happens anyways, whether you like it or not. It's going to happen. We change all the time, as I said before. But discipline, developing a discipline. Maybe this is something that is not natural. Maybe it's not natural. I studied ballet when I was young, and I loved it because of the discipline, and I did things gymnastics, because I loved the discipline, the working your body and working, but I think that people who do not feel comfortable with discipline, self-discipline, I don't mean when somebody, God forbid, nobody would dare to try to discipline me. Okay, I'm a very undisciplined from somebody else, but discipline myself. And I think that self-discipline is something that's really, really worthwhile to develop.
Of course. Yes. And just to continue a little bit talking about what you mentioned, and at first I was talking about the difficulty to concentrate on the here and now. but I learned how, in a way, how to concentrate on, as you said, on the thought and let it flow, not go. Let it flow naturally. So part of the meditation exercise was to try to breathe well and focus on prana. It's like alternative nostril breathing. And the next step was to focus on the sounds surrounding you and hear them in a normal way, not as a disturbing way. And after this, I learned a little bit how to be mindful of not kind of the way it's like people think it's like yoga people or the people who practice yoga, they're very zen in a way. They don't carry any burden with them. No, it's like we learned how to navigate that and those challenges in a way. We just, feelings, thoughts and emotions and everything we can't control, we just let them flow the way they are. And we, as you said, we kind of set reminders, because you can meditate, and you can stay in the savasana, position, like, and you can stay there like for hours. But if you don't set a time and you don't manage that well and discipline consistency on a daily basis, we want like I can see it, as a radical thing. Like I don't want to be a monk, and at the same time, I'm still practicing the let's say the feeling of being aware of my surrounding and aware of myself, even aware of my heartbeat, aware of the way that I breathe. It's like, and most of all, being compassionate with oneself is like you don't force yourself into doing things. And even though self-discipline, there are people who understand it in the wrong way. For example, athletes, they force themselves, and they have the cold showers in the morning, and they go and swim, in the beach like at 4 a.m. so that they can feel those sensations. But I see self-discipline in a different way, and everybody can see it from a different way. Of course, it's like I'm gentle to myself, but at the same time, I'm tough. It's like you can say, how come is this? I set my goals and I'm clear about those goals, but yet I am flexible to how I can achieve those goals. If I can find myself, for example, too tired to do that task within a week, I can segment it, for example, and do it on 2 weeks. The most important thing is that I achieve my task and my goal. And I'm going to link this Dr. Nellie to learning. And how can someone have, the same endurance that one can have in sports to run a marathon? I don't want to draw a metaphor of learning as a marathon, but let's talk about this maybe as a lifelong journey. If we talk about learning and learning, not at a particular moment, and improvement as well. So the question is, do your learning habits, did they change over time, Dr. Nellie, or did you adjust your learning habits as a professional to the current circumstances and the digital world? So how do you see learning evolving for you, and then to others if you want, from past to present, maybe in the future?
When you say learning, you probably, I don't know what you mean exactly, but learning for me means 24/7, except when I'm sleeping. Even when I'm sleeping, I'm learning, I suppose, because when I wake up, I piece things together sometimes, and they piece me together as well. Sometimes you wake up and you don't understand why, and then you realize, oh, it's that dream. Yeah, okay. So learning is done all the time. We're always learning. But if you're talking about school studies, then that's one thing. If you're talking about life learning or learning, which I learn all the time, as I said, from everything. What do you mean by learning?
Yeah, Dr. Nellie, if you want me to specify, if you want, for example, to talk about your human experience or your academic and professional one, it's up to you to elaborate on whatever is convenient to you. Like if you see learning linked to academia or learning in your human experience. So,
well, I can tell you, I've always viewed learning as learning. When it came to teaching, in other words, I wanted my students to learn. I didn't want to teach them. I just wanted to guide them. But as far as my, I guess my studies, I wouldn't call it learning. My studies, I think that's where discipline came in too. I mean, I had a need to, for example, do my PhD in 4 years, because I said I wasn't going to pay another year or another, because every time, it would cost me another year, even though I had sponsors, but it didn't matter. The idea of, doing it for more than 4 years just didn't seem, I mean, you had to do at least 4 years. So I was disciplined to complete my studies. I was disciplined to get really good grades. I mean, it was really important to me for myself, because of course, it didn't matter to anybody else. I mean, my parents, all they wanted was to see that book, as my mother called it. When is your book coming out?
the dissertation. Yeah.
Dissertation, she called it a book. When is your book coming out? I want to see your book already. So that wasn't it. I enjoyed my studies very, very much, and I was very disciplined. Because as you set goals, and you you don't force yourself. Of course, I didn't force myself, but going back to discipline, when I say self-discipline, I say that sometimes you have to, in order to benefit from something, you have to be self-disciplined, or you're not going to go anywhere with that. So what I do these days, if I want to get something, and I find that that's the best way to get something done, is after I do my mindfulness, I seem to have a lot more time. After I do my morning meditation, I have so much more time than I did in the past when I didn't do any kind of, I did yoga for many years, did Tai Chi after that too for a couple of years. Yeah. And I really enjoy Tai Chi. Tai Chi is amazing because it's dance. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And yoga can be very tiring. Yoga is hard. It's not, even though, I used to be very flexible. So it was, I did headstand, handstands. I was very flexible because of gymnastics. But nonetheless, I found it, less beautiful than, say, Tai Chi. But mindfulness is the best, and it really helps you. I don't know how exactly. I mean, they have done studies on this, on focus, and on the fact that the minute you live your moments, you're mindful, then you can get a lot more done because you don't get lost in time. And you can do that with, in the digital world, you get lost because you can be on your email for the whole day, or on a social network, or creating a video. You can spend a whole day creating a video or presentations and so on. So, being mindful really, really helps. And I think you mentioned the timer. I think that's part of it. Right now, I had some problems with my eyes, so I have a timer, and the timer, you didn't, I know you saw the phone. The timer is for 20 minutes. Every 20 minutes, I look away for 20, it's supposed to be good for your eyes if you are on the screen for too many hours. So what you do is 20 minutes, and then you look away. Now, all these sessions and everything is at least an hour and a half. So how do you manage that? Well, you can manage it. All I have to do is just look away. I mean, look at a distance for 20 seconds and have the timer, and you can manage everything, like you said, if you flow with it, if you don't try to do things by force, if you don't force things to happen, if you accept things as they are, in your classroom, you've got students who are making a lot of noise, you've got a rowdy class. So what do? You don't scream at them, as some teachers I know.
I stop
You
talking.
exactly. You shut your mouth. I mean, you just look at, and how do you look at them? With anger and show them
No,
I'm the boss? No.
no.
What you do is you smile.
I'll wait for you. That's what I said.
Smile. And then they look at you. Why is she smiling? You know, they look at you. They're so
Yeah.
curious. And then once everybody's looking at you, you can start talking. So it's really, and I remember somebody once told me, you know, look at the rowdy kids, you know, look at the class as if they're babies. I mean, how do you look at babies when they're really, really, I mean, babies can't be bad, right? You look at them like they're little angels. So when everybody's making a lot of noise and you walk into class and nobody wants to look at you, and you don't get hurt, or you just accept it. And then you look at them, you smile, you see the babies and you think, how cute, they're so cute. And then they look at you and you start. So if you accept things as they are, you don't have to like it. You know, you don't have to, and people misunderstand the accept. I think you do. You don't, you know, it's not that you think, okay, this is it. I'm going to accept it. This is my life. I have to be miserable the whole day. Something happened, you know, whatever. Like someone once told me, Nellie, you don't worry, don't you care? What does one have to do with the other? You have to show you that you're worried. I mean, that's how you show that you care, because you worry. So
it doesn't change anything if I worry.
exactly.
So
Exactly. Yeah, but people think they have to see it on you. They have to see that, okay, I'm worried. I'm really worried. This was terrible. You have to show a face. You can't smile, because what are you smiling for if things are so bad? You know, like, what are you, an idiot? I mean, show that you care. Be angry, or, you know, be upset or worried. So what I'm saying is, like you said, you have to accept things as, I mean, they happen. What are you going to do?
yes.
You know, go
You
into
know
the
the
wall
question.
because the wall is there in front of you. You can accept the wall. There's a wall. Okay, so,
Yeah.
you know, look,
Sorry to
accept it. There's a wall.
interrupt you, Dr. Nellie,
What?
but I always had a question in mind. It's like, what is the worst case scenario? I learned how to ask myself this question when I'm faced with a huge challenge. It's like, okay, and what if that happens? How can you deal with that? Okay, so let it happen then. So I learned to be well at peace and well at ease. And instead of just worrying about things that are going to happen in like 5 years from now, what can I do? Like, I'm in the present moment. So shall I worry and live my life like stressful until I can face that
If you
after?
don't worry, it means that you don't care. You have to
I
worry,
used to
right?
worry a lot.
Otherwise, you don't care, right?
I used to
No,
worry
but
a lot, a lot, a lot. And I learned how to worry less and how to navigate that in the most peaceful way. Because either in my personal life or professional life, like I dealt with challenges. So I always ask myself, okay, that happened and it happened for a particular reason.
no,
Now,
maybe
how,
not. Why does it have to have a reason?
of course, no, but I don't care about the reason, but how can
Right.
I go over that? How can I not forget it, but learn from it and go beyond that? If it's anything related, so I'm not going to mention something really specific, but it's like, let it happen. And so
Yeah,
what?
well, that, you know, somebody once explained how she deals with it, and I was really amazed. And I didn't get it. It took me a couple of years to really understand what she was talking about, because it seemed ridiculous. She says, okay, something happened. All right. So, and then he says, okay, so what? What will be the result of this? Okay, then somebody will be very angry at you. Okay, so they'll be very angry at you. Okay, and then what? So what will happen? Like you were saying, what will happen? And then they won't like me anymore. Okay, so they won't like you anymore. What's the next thing? So I will feel bad. Okay, so you will feel bad. And what will happen if you feel bad? And then she went all the way to death. You know, she went to death. What's the worst? And, you know, what's the worst thing that could happen is you could die. I mean, if you think about it, like, because when things happen to us, we get so involved in the little things. It could be nothing. It could be somebody said something and you got hurt, which could happen. You were in a bad mood, you know, whatever. Somebody says something, you got, and then you take that, and it's actually you. They hurt your feelings. You know, they demoralized you. You feel like you're not worth anything. You're worthless. So what can happen if you feel worthless? I mean,
It
and then
depends.
it goes all the way down to your basic life needs, which is to survive.
Yes.
You know, you want to survive. So anything, so you have to think about it from the beginning. So will I die because somebody hurt my feelings? No. I just fell and hurt my knee. Will I die? No. I have a headache. Will I die? No. I have a backache. Will I die? I mean, and you go on with that. If death is not the last thing that
What
will
if?
happen,
What
then you're
if?
safe.
Yeah. You know, Nellie, I learned even to see death since we mentioned this. I learned how to see it from a different way, beyond the spiritual and the religious. It's like, what if someone dies? Will that be the end? Maybe that can be a start to something we don't know. It's like journeying. I'm beyond, the body and organs. I see my human experience as being different. And maybe my religious part reinforced that at a particular sense. In other parts, it was my spiritual yogic experience, and then the Tai Chi afterwards. And then being alone in some particular situations when I travel, when I work, when I commute. So it's like you and your thoughts. And I've been to very, very difficult and risky situations. Is like someone can risk their life for. It's like I've been to Thailand, and it was with the tigers, and I wanted to get close to those tigers, even though they were tamed at that time. I didn't know, but I told myself, and what if? And my friends, they were just telling me, that the ones that were with me on that trip at that time, aren't you scared of doing that? And I was saying, and what if? You know that I'm going to tell myself that I haven't tried that experience for years. So I took that challenge, and I learned to navigate even death itself. Like being peaceful in a way to take that part of destiny. I believe in destiny as well. So, and I can't change nothing. So why should I have a grasp over something I can control and worry about it? Let it go, let it flow. So
Because it's
and
just in your head, even though the tigers were real.
they were real, so real. I'll show you the photo on Facebook.
No, I believe you. No, I know that they do that. It's a way to learn to overcome the thought of fear. It's not fear itself, but the thought of fear is a scarcity. I mean, fear is nothing, but thinking about fear is scary. is terrible.
It is. And as you said, I was challenged even by the coach, the guard who was supposed to take care of the tiger. I told him, so please, I'm going to get close to the tiger, but try not to scare the animal, because if he starts to on, I get scared to death. And he tapped him, with this stick, and the tiger starts moving in. So I just say, Yousra, he gave me a piece of advice, is to tap firmly on his back. Because if I tickle the tiger and I just touch it in a soft and nice way, they will start reacting in on the opposite sense. So when I like tapped on the tiger's back, so it acted like a felon, like a cat. And I said to
Because you
myself,
were the boss. He knew that you were the boss.
but I was inside, when I posted those photos on my Facebook, my mom said, no, these are fake photos. I know my daughter, she can't really do that. So, but then I'm so proud of myself for taking that experience.
You should be.
And I can do it again. I would like to do it again, but not in a safari. I'd like to go for real where they live. I might not go back, for that experience, but I understand. So the next question, Dr. Nellie, is related to, I took you away from Tesol in a
That's
way.
okay. Yeah, I was just thinking about that. We went away from Tesol.
Yes, but it's okay. Like all of this
No, we did talk about it. We talked about the beginning when I talked about my students in Facebook. So
we
that's
did.
how I taught English through Facebook.
The question is still related to Tesol and mindfulness, but not necessarily mindfulness. Like, have you tried of integrating all the practices, the practice that you learn, like through yoga, through Tai Chi, mindfulness? Did you integrate this in your lessons or not yet? Or do you
Well,
consider?
always. I've been integrating it. I mean, while I was using Facebook in 2006, 7, 8, I was also using mindfulness. I mean, first of all, it was the listening. Mindfulness was a listening practice. I never said mindfulness in the classroom. I never said meditation. I mean, I didn't want parents to think, oh, the hippie teacher is doing meditation. You know, I mean, today it's fine, but in those days it wasn't. Talking about 2004, 5, 6. I mean, you know, people weren't that open to these things, to mindfulness in school, in any case. And this is high school; they're young learners. So what I did was I told them we're going to practice listening, and that's how I started. They would listen and do what I said. You know, breathe. Pay attention to your breath, pay attention to your body. I did body scans and so on. And then, they said, we want more. They wanted more before each test, not English tests, but other tests. So they kept asking, can we have Nellie before our test? They asked their science teacher, can we have Nellie before our test? And they found out that it's wonderful, that they liked it. And so I would do it in class. I would practice myself. First of all, I would do my own practice. I did also yoga in class. I would have them stand up and do various things in class. Yeah, I kept doing, like you said, you know, change the pace, see what's going on, take a look at the class. If you see that they're tired of something, get them to stand up. I got them to move around the class, even though I had about 40 to 50 students, move around the class, do different things. And then, you know, some of the difficult students, the ones that had, you know, difficulties focusing and couldn't control their mouth and their sound, the sounds that came out. These are high school kids, some of the boys. So when I did the stand-up, mindfulness standing up or yoga standing up, they wanted to continue standing because they felt that they could connect to the ground better. I mean, I kind of taught them how to connect to the ground.
Barefoot?
No, they wore shoes. No, I wouldn't go that far. No, but they would, no, I would, you know, tell them to, okay, feel the ground as you're standing with your eyes open. It was always eyes open because, you know, students don't want to close their eyes in front of their peers. So eyes open and, you know, focus on the ground, on the soles of your shoes. And as you know, try to focus on that, or focus on your breathing, or, you know, put your hands over your heart. You know, they would put their hands over their heart.
The heartbeat.
Yeah, and try to pay attention to the warmth. And some of these kids wanted to continue standing during the lesson, which I thought was not move, just stand, you know, stand and kind of stay in this Qigong kind of movement. And they loved it.
They love it.
So
yes.
yeah, and I thought, well, why aren't other teachers trying this out? And then I realized they're afraid, you know, and I was afraid too. But
Same.
I like to take chances. Okay, like with you with a tiger, with a tiger. But I like to experiment. You know, I think that's what teaching is for me. Is about. It's about learning. First of all, I learn when I teach, just like you do with the podcast and so on. And I also learn, you know, not only about myself, but I learn about them. And I learn about techniques, you know, what works, what doesn't work. And I found out that what works is this human connection to yourself. The minute students are connected to themselves, they're going to love each other. Nobody laughed at anybody. Everybody, they became closer. They, you know, they didn't compete with one another. You know, the results of mindfulness. I mean, it's all been documented, but it's true. And that's what happens in the classroom. So, you know, I know it's hard and to dare to do this, but it's worthwhile. It's really worth it. And
want me to share my experience?
Yes, please.
Yes, I remember applying this to middle schoolers and also to undergraduates. So I remember a class which was grade 6, I guess, 6 or 7, and it was at an international school, and I had students from different backgrounds. and some of them, they could barely speak English. So that's a lot of chit chat going on. And so it was one of the most challenging classes that I had. And all the teachers, they didn't want to take that class because it was very, very exhausting for them. So I thought, I'll take that challenge. So, and I practiced yoga sessions, a full session, an hour. I took them to the gym room. Mm. And in other sessions, we had, they had a short nap, it's like up to 10 minutes before starting the lesson. And I had even, the school headmaster and everybody, they just pass by the class and see the, okay, it's just right, that's yoga, okay. So they understood that it makes the whole difference. And even the most hyperactive and most less disciplined student, they start to listen afterwards. They start to, I don't want to use the word, a lot of teachers say obey. No, we're not in that sense. We're not talking about a military.
Yeah, they started paying attention. They started, they started being there, because we know that students are not there. I mean, most people aren't there. Most people, are everywhere, but they're not there unless they learn, some kind of martial art or some Eastern, they practice Eastern mindfulness or whatever it is. And learning to be there adds a value to your life. Not only your life, but to your students, everybody around you. And that's something that you can't, I'm giving a mindfulness Tesol for English language teachers on Electronic Village Online. And I've been doing this for about 2 years now, not just to Tesol for 2 years, but I've been doing this for longer. It's going to be 5 weeks from January to February, around the 12th of January to the I think it's the 17 or 18 of February, 5 weeks. And I'll be not only, helping teachers learn how to practice themselves. There are lots of activities. It's on a Moodle platform, but also they'll be learning how to do it in the classroom. In other words, how to incorporate and how to teach mindfulness to each other. They'll be practicing, and also some readings. And I think the benefit is that it doesn't matter whether you just want it for yourself because you benefit, you want it to teach others so they can benefit. But even if you just do it for yourself, as I said, others, it has a ripple effect and everybody benefits from it. So I think that it's, so if anybody's interested, I'll be talking more about it very soon. In about a month, I'll be marketing it. It's free. And there's a certificate too for those interested. So this is something that if you'd like to join too.
Of course,
and,
thank you.
Yeah, I'll be sharing that very soon. So I think we've reached the hour, right?
Yes. So to wrap up quickly, thank you so much. And please feel free to share any useful links like the course that you just announced. And I'll be glad to share it with my network. And what else? And thank you so much, Dr. Nellie, for providing teachers around the world with useful tips and useful materials, be it on LinkedIn, be it on Facebook, with all the you're active in.
I think we've gone through so many different things. I hope that it's useful to those who are watching. If you have any questions, don't feel uncomfortable asking them. I think that asking questions is a wonderful way to learn too.
Of course. And
so, thank you
so much. And to whoever is watching us, thank you so much for tuning in, for listening to both of us. And we'll be glad to elaborate on this maybe in the future. And I hope, Dr. Nellie, that won't be the last time that I'm talking to you this way, in like beyond the webinars and beyond the courses, and a friendly chat like this is really so very valuable. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope